"I would never hurt you," my best friend Natalia said, looking me straight in the eyes as she pitched my business idea to the investors I'd introduced her to. So I ruined her launch. When you hear how she betrayed me and what I did about it, you'll understand why some friendships are worth destroying. It was Tuesday morning, October 15th, in downtown Portland, and I was running late to what I thought was a casual coffee meeting. I'd been looking forward to it all week, finally getting to catch up with Natalia after months of us both being buried in our separate projects. We'd planned to meet at Grind Coffee on Morrison Street, the same place we'd been meeting every Tuesday for the past 3 years. Back when we were both struggling freelancers trying to make it in the tech world. I remember rushing through the glass doors, scanning the familiar exposed brick walls and industrial lighting for her signature red hair. That's when I spotted her not at our usual corner table by the window, but in the back section. The one with the high back chairs and better acoustics. The section that was usually reserved for business meetings. That should have been my first warning sign. She wasn't alone. 3 people in expensive suits sat across from her, laptops open. Notebooks out, the kind of setup that screamed investment pitch. But what made my blood run cold wasn't the formal meeting, it was what I saw on her laptop screen as I approached from behind. My presentation. My slides. My business model. My 18 months of research, development, and sleepless nights, all packaged up and being delivered in Natalia's confident, persuasive voice. "The market gap is enormous," she was saying, gesturing to a chart I'd created at 2 a.m. 3 weeks earlier. "Small businesses are bleeding money on inefficient inventory management, and existing solutions are either too expensive or too complicated for companies with fewer than 50 employees." I stood there, frozen, listening to her pitch my revolutionary inventory management software platform codenamed StockSense, to what I now realized were the venture capitalists from Meridian Partners. The same VCs I'd been trying to get a meeting with for 6 months. The same VCs Natalia had promised to introduce me to when the time was right. Apparently, the time was right. Just not for me. "Our proprietary algorithm," she continued, clicking to my technical specification slide, "can reduce inventory costs by up to 35% while preventing stockouts 90% more effectively than current market leaders." Our proprietary algorithm. The algorithm I'd spent every weekend for the past year developing. The algorithm I'd shared with her in confidence. Seeking her input as my most trusted friend and business advisor, I took a step closer. My hands shaking. My heart hammering so loud I was sure everyone in the coffee shop could hear it. That's when Natalia looked up and saw me. For just a split second, her composure cracked, her eyes went wide. Her mouth fell open slightly, and I saw something flicker across her face that might have been guilt, or maybe just annoyance at being caught. But then, as if someone had flipped a switch, her expression smoothed back into the charming smile I'd known for 8 years. She actually had the audacity to wave me over. "Victoria," she called out, as if this was the most natural thing in the world. Perfect timing. "I was just telling the team from Meridian about about our concept." Concept. I walked over on unsteady legs, my mind racing to process what was happening. The 3 investors, 2 men and a woman, all impeccably dressed and radiating that particular brand of Silicon Valley confidence, looked up at me with polite interest. "Victoria Chen is my business partner," Natalia said smoothly, and I felt my stomach drop another floor. Business partner. We had never been business partners. We had never even discussed being business partners. She's the technical genius behind the platform. The woman investor, probably in her 50s with sharp silver hair and sharper eyes, extended her hand. "Rebecca Castellanos, senior partner at Meridian. Natalia's been telling us amazing things about StockSense. The market analysis is particularly impressive." Market analysis. The market analysis I'd presented to Natalia over dinner at her apartment just 2 weeks ago, when I'd finally worked up the courage to share my complete business plan with someone I trusted. When I'd asked for her honest feedback and maybe some advice on how to approach investors, I shook Rebecca's hand, trying to keep my voice steady. "Nice to meet you, David Kumar," said one of the men. A younger guy with an expensive watch and the kind of tan that comes from weekend sailing trips. We're really excited about the scalability potential here. Natalia was just walking us through your customer acquisition strategy. My customer acquisition strategy. The one I developed after months of surveys, focus groups, and beta testing. With 12 local businesses who'd agreed to try my prototype. The third investor, an older man with salt and pepper hair and knowing eyes, studied me carefully, James Morrison. I have to say, this is one of the most well-researched proposals we've seen in months. The financial projections are conservative, but realistic, and the technical execution plan shows real depth of understanding. Financial projections I'd agonized over, technical execution plan I'd written and rewritten a dozen times. All of it sitting on Natalia's laptop as if she'd created it herself. Thank you, I managed to say, because what else could I say? What was I supposed to do? Call out my best friend in front of 3 of the most influential VCs in the Pacific Northwest, accuse her of theft in the middle of a coffee shop, make myself look like a crazy person having a breakdown, so I sat down. I listened as Natalia continued to present my life's work as her own. I watched her field questions about technical details she barely understood, deflecting the more complex ones to me with phrases like Victoria can speak to the implementation specifics and my partner here is really the expert on the back-end architecture. Partner. The word felt like a slap every time she said it. For 45 minutes, I sat there as Natalia systematically took credit for every innovation, every breakthrough, every late night of coding and every early morning of market research that had gone into creating StockSense. She was good at it, too, confident, articulate, persuasive in a way that I'd always admired and envied. The beta results speak for themselves, she said, pulling up charts showing the performance improvements my software had achieved for the test businesses. We've got 12 companies already seeing an average of 28% cost reduction and virtually zero inventory shortfalls. As if she'd been there for any of the implementations. As if she'd done anything more than listen to me excitedly share my progress over countless coffee dates and dinner conversations. The meeting wrapped up with handshakes and business cards. The investors were clearly interested, very interested. Rebecca mentioned wanting to schedule a follow-up meeting next week to discuss terms. David asked about our current funding needs and timeline for a full market launch. James wanted to see a live demo of the platform. We'll be in touch very soon, Rebecca said as they gathered their things. This is exactly the kind of innovative, market-ready solution we've been looking for. And then they were gone, leaving me sitting across from Natalia in the sudden quiet of the coffee shop's back section. The normal sounds of the cafe espresso machines hissing, conversations murmuring, chairs scraping seemed muffled and distant. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Natalia closed her laptop, my laptop screen, my presentation, my stolen dreams, and looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read, part defiant, part apologetic, part something else entirely. Victoria, she finally said, her voice softer now. More like the friend I thought I knew. I can explain. Explain, I repeated, my own voice sounding strange to my ears. Explain what, exactly? She glanced around, making sure no one was within earshot, then leaned forward. I was going to tell you. I've been trying to figure out how to bring this up for weeks. Bring what up? The fact that you stole my business idea? I didn't steal anything, she said quickly, and there was a flash of the old Natalia in her tone, the one who could argue her way out of anything. Who could make you question your own memory of events? We've been talking about this project for months. We developed it together. I stared at her in disbelief. Natalia, I wrote every line of code. I did every bit of market research. I designed the user interface, created the business model, built the financial projections, and I gave you feedback, she interrupted. I helped you refine the concept. I provided business insights. That makes me a collaborator, doesn't it? Collaborator. The word hung between us like a challenge. You listening to me talk about my project over coffee doesn't make you a collaborator, I said. My voice getting stronger as the shock began to wear off and anger took its place. It makes you a friend, or at least it made you a friend. Something shifted in her expression then. The apologetic mask slipped away, revealing something harder underneath. "Look," she said, sitting back in her chair and crossing her arms, "you're brilliant, Victoria. You really are. But you're also naive about how business works. You could have sat on this idea for years, perfecting your code and researching your market, and never actually done anything with it. I was doing something with it. I was building it. You were hiding from it," she shot back. "How long have you been working on this? 18 months, 2 years, and what do you have to show for it? A prototype and some beta tests with local small businesses. You've never even tried to get real funding. Because I wanted to make sure it was perfect first. Nothing is ever perfect, Victoria. At some point, you have to stop preparing and start doing. That's what I'm good at. That's what I bring to this partnership." Partnership? There was that word again. "We don't have a partnership." I said firmly, "We never discussed a partnership. You took my idea and pitched it as your own." "I pitched it as ours," she corrected. "I introduced you as my business partner. I gave you credit for the technical work. After you got caught, you introduced me as your partner because I walked in on your presentation. What would have happened if I hadn't shown up? Would you have mentioned me at all?" She didn't answer that question. Instead, she leaned forward again, her voice taking on that persuasive tone I'd heard her use in her marketing job, the one that could sell ice to penguins. "Victoria, think about what just happened in there. Those investors were excited, really excited. Rebecca Castellanos doesn't get excited about much, and she was practically ready to write us a check. Do you know how hard it is to get a meeting with Meridian Partners? Do you know how many entrepreneurs would kill for the opportunity we just had, the opportunity you stole from me? The opportunity I created for us," she insisted. "You've been trying to get in front of these investors for months. I made it happen in 2 weeks." "How?" I asked, though I was starting to suspect I didn't want to know the answer. She hesitated, and I saw that flicker of guilt again. "I used my connections. James Morrison's daughter goes to the same yoga studio as me. We got to talking. And I mentioned this amazing project I was working on, that we were working on," she corrected smoothly. "And he was intrigued enough to set up a meeting." I felt sick. "So you've been planning this for weeks?" "I've been planning to help you for weeks," she said, but there was something desperate in her voice now, as if she was trying to convince herself as much as me. "Victoria, you're my best friend. I would never hurt you. Everything I've done has been to help you succeed. I would never hurt you." Those words would replay in my mind for weeks afterward. The absolute conviction in her voice as she said them. The way she looked me in the eye, as if she genuinely believed what she was saying. As if taking my life's work and presenting it as her own was somehow an act of friendship. "Help me succeed," I repeated slowly. "By taking credit for my work. By making sure your work gets the recognition it deserves," she said. "By making sure you don't waste years of your life being too scared to take risks." "And what do you get out of this generous act of friendship?" For the first time in the conversation, she looked uncomfortable. Obviously, as business partners, we'd split everything equally. Equity, profits, decision-making authority. 50%. She wanted 50% of my company for setting up one meeting. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. 50% for one introduction. 50% for everything I'm going to do going forward, she said quickly. "Victoria, I'm good at this stuff. I'm good at sales, at networking, at dealing with investors. You're brilliant at the technical side, but you hate the business side. We complement each other. We could have complemented each other as friends. You could have helped me prepare for my own pitch meetings. You could have introduced me to your contacts as myself, not as your business partner. And would you have taken those meetings?" She challenged. "Would you have been ready? Or would you have spent another 6 months perfecting your presentation and never actually done anything?" The terrible thing was, she might have been right about that. I had been procrastinating on investor outreach, finding reasons to delay, convincing myself I needed just a little more data or one more feature before I was ready. But that didn't give her the right to steal my life's work. That was my choice to make. I said quietly, my timeline, my risk to take, my business to build or fail with. "And now it's our choice to make," she said, reaching across the table to touch my hand. Victoria, I know this is a lot to process. I know I should have talked to you first, but I also know that if I'd asked, you would have said no. You would have found a reason why it wasn't the right time, why you weren't ready, why we needed to wait. She was right. I probably would have said no. I definitely would have wanted to wait, to prepare more, to make sure everything was perfect before putting myself in front of investors. But that still didn't make what she'd done okay. I pulled my hand away from hers. So you made the decision for me. I made the decision for us, she insisted. Victoria, we've been friends for 8 years. We've supported each other through everything. Remember when I helped you get through your breakup with Ryan? Remember when you helped me navigate getting laid off from Morrison Tech? We're a team. We've always been a team where one person makes major life decisions without consulting the other person. A team where one person has the courage to take risks and the other person has the skills to make those risks pay off, she said. We're perfect partners, Victoria. Today proved that. I stared at her, trying to reconcile this person with the friend I'd trusted with my deepest fears and biggest dreams, the friend who'd celebrated every small victory in my coding journey and listened patiently to every frustration with my slow progress. The friend who'd told me countless times that I was going to change the world with my ideas. Apparently, she'd just decided to change the world with my ideas herself. I need time to think about this, I said finally, standing up from the table. Of course, she said quickly, relief flooding her voice. Take all the time you need, but, Victoria, please don't let your fear make this decision for you. This is our chance. This is what we've been working toward. Even now, she couldn't stop rewriting history. I walked out of Grind Coffee in a daze, my mind spinning with everything that had just happened. The morning sun seemed too bright, the street noise too loud, everything slightly surreal, as if I'd slipped into some alternate universe where my best friend had become a stranger. I didn't go back to my apartment. Instead, I found myself walking aimlessly through downtown Portland, past the food trucks and boutique shops, past the street performers and office workers hurrying to their next meetings. I ended up in Pioneer Courthouse Square, sitting on one of the red brick steps, watching people live their normal lives while mine fell apart. My phone buzzed, a text from Natalia. I know you're upset, but please think about what I said. This is going to be amazing for both of us. I love you, V. I love you, V. She'd been calling me the fifth since our sophomore year of college, when we bonded over a particularly brutal economics midterm and stayed up all night in the library helping each other study. She'd been the maid of honor at my wedding to Ryan, even though the marriage only lasted 2 years. I'd been there when her dad had his heart attack, holding her hand in the hospital waiting room. We'd traveled together, celebrated birthdays together, shared secrets and dreams and countless late-night conversations about what we wanted our lives to look like. And now she was casually rewriting the most important project of my life as if she'd been part of it from the beginning. I sat there in the square for hours, trying to understand how I'd gotten to this point, how I'd been so naive, how I'd missed the signs that my best friend was capable of something like this. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized there had been signs, small things I'd dismissed or explained away. The way she'd always been just a little too interested in my business ideas. The questions that had seemed supportive but were actually gathering information. The way she'd encouraged me to share more details about StockSense, claiming she wanted to help me brainstorm solutions to technical challenges. The way she'd always been just a little bit competitive about everything. Even though she'd disguised it as friendly rivalry, I thought about all the times she'd said when talking about my accomplishments, we figured out that algorithm. We identified that market gap. We're going to revolutionize inventory management. I thought she was being supportive. I'd thought she was sharing in my excitement. I'd been wrong. As the sun started to set, painting the Portland skyline in shades of orange and pink, I finally understood what I was dealing with. This wasn't a misunderstanding or a momentary lapse in judgment. This was a calculated decision by someone who'd been planning this for weeks, maybe months. Someone who genuinely believed she was entitled to half of everything I'd created. Someone who thought stealing my life's work was an act of friendship. Someone who was about to learn that I wasn't the naive, risk-averse pushover she thought I was. I pulled out my phone and started making calls. If Natalia wanted to play business games, I was going to teach her how the game really worked, and I was going to make sure she lost. Let me take you back to how this friendship began, because understanding who Natalia was makes what she did so much worse. We met 8 years ago at Portland State University, both struggling through our final semester of computer science. I was the quiet one who sat in the front row, taking meticulous notes and never speaking unless called upon. Natalia was the one who charmed professors into extensions and somehow convinced study groups to do most of her coding assignments while she coordinated and brought coffee. Even then, she had this gift for making people want to help her. I should have seen it as a red flag. Instead, I saw it as something I wanted to learn. While I could debug code for hours without breaking a sweat, I couldn't ask a professor for help without my voice shaking. Natalia could walk into any room and, within minutes, have everyone eating out of her hand. "You're brilliant, V," she told me after I'd helped her fix a particularly nasty algorithm bug at 2 a.m. in the computer lab. "But you need to learn how to sell yourself. That's where I come in." That became the foundation of our friendship. I was the technical genius, she was the people person. I could build anything, she could convince anyone. It felt like the perfect partnership, even though we were just friends supporting each other through college. After graduation, we both landed entry-level jobs at different tech companies in Portland. I went to Dataflow Solutions as a junior developer, spending my days writing clean, efficient code and my evenings working on personal projects. Natalia started at Morrison Tech in their marketing department, where she quickly became known for her ability to turn complex technical concepts into compelling sales narratives. We kept our Tuesday coffee tradition going. Every week, same table. At Grind Coffee, catching up on work drama and sharing our bigger dreams. Natalia would tell me about the campaigns she was developing, the clients she was winning over, the promotions she was angling for. I'd share my latest coding discoveries, the applications I was building on weekends, the business ideas that kept me up at night. "You should really do something with that inventory management concept," she said about 6 months ago, after I'd mentioned StockSense for the first time. Small businesses are definitely struggling with that problem. I explained how I'd noticed the issue while freelancing for local shops. They were either overstocked on items that wouldn't sell or constantly running out of popular products. Existing software solutions were either too expensive for small businesses or too complicated for owners who just wanted to focus on running their stores. There's definitely a market gap there. Natalia agreed, and I felt validated in a way I rarely did. Having someone I trusted confirm my instincts gave me the confidence to start serious development. Over the following months, she became my unofficial sounding board. When I hit technical roadblocks, I'd bounce ideas off her over coffee. When I finished major milestones, she was the first person I'd tell. When I needed encouragement during the inevitable frustrating periods, she'd remind me why the project mattered. "You're going to change how small businesses operate," she'd say. "This could be huge, V." I thought I was lucky to have such a supportive friend. Someone who believed in my vision, who understood the potential impact, who celebrated every small victory along the way. What I didn't realize was that she was gathering intelligence. Every detail I shared, every breakthrough I explained, every business strategy I developed, she was cataloging it all. Not because she wanted to steal it, I convinced myself later, but because she was genuinely interested in my success. The truth was much simpler and much worse. She saw an opportunity and decided to take it. Looking back now, I can see the exact moment when our friendship dynamic shifted from supportive to predatory. It was about 2 months ago when I finally showed her my complete business plan. We were at her apartment, and I'd brought my laptop to walk her through everything: the market research, financial projections, technical specifications, customer acquisition strategy. "This is incredible," she kept saying as I clicked through slide after slide of work that had consumed my life for over a year. "Victoria, this is really incredible." I was glowing from her praise. proud to finally share the full scope of what I'd been building. I trusted her completely. Why wouldn't I? She was my best friend, my biggest supporter, the person who'd been cheering me on since day one. Have you thought about approaching investors? She asked as I closed the laptop. Eventually, I said, I want to get a few more beta clients first, maybe improve the user interface a bit more. You could wait forever for it to be perfect, she said gently. Sometimes you just have to take the leap. I should have recognized that as the setup. The way she planted the seed that I was being too cautious, too perfectionist, too scared to take real action. She was already building the narrative she'd use later to justify stealing my life's work, but in that moment, sitting in her living room with takeout containers scattered around us and her cat curled up between us on the couch, it just felt like friendship. Like someone who cared about me trying to push me towards success. I know, I said, I'm just not ready yet. You'll never feel ready, she replied, and I nodded because I thought she understood my perfectionist tendencies. Now I know she was already planning to make the decision for me. That was the night everything changed, though I didn't realize it, until I walked into the coffee shop yesterday morning and saw my life's work being presented as hers. 8 years of friendship, hundreds of coffee dates, countless hours of shared dreams and mutual support, all of it had been preparation for the moment when she'd smile at me across a conference table and calmly explain why stealing my business idea was actually an act of love.